morning again, everyone. It's so good. This is the first time I've seen David after the pandemic. So, Yusek David, let's give him a big hand of applause, the Iron Man. And I really admire, we call it tapat sa watawat, means loyal to the flag, and really good service. Thank you, Yusek David. A number of challenges have arose during the pandemic, but there are silver linings, you must agree. It has fast-tracked digitalization, which works for good reasons, I mean for businesses, for financial institutions, but then it's a double-edged thing. It has also made us vulnerable to cyber threats, cyber crimes particularly. Philippines is number 5 in Asia when it comes to data breach, number 17 globally. We've lost millions globally from ransomware attacks as well as data breach. So I will start with Yusek David. Yusek David, it's really nice to see you. You got me at, what do you call this, that eGov application that can in real time capture crimes, right? So I really like that. I'm a very paranoid mother. So that said, can you elaborate? I mean, are you extracting analytics from it to see how the landscape have changed in terms of cyber crimes? Particularly, is it also a platform for reporting cyber crimes?
Yes, this is the beauty. Kulang yung oras na kanina, but part of the slides supposed to be that I cut a while ago, because I'm in the middle of the slide, is actually the cybercrime prevention system. Okay, that we have. We work closely with CICC. So CICC is another attached agency of the ICT called the Cybercrime Investigation Center. So their job is to investigate, and they will work closely with the law enforcement team to arrest. The problem is, most of the time after the fact, right? Nahack ka na, saka ka magre-react. Sometimes what's really going on here in the Philippines is you only react once it's done. So we are just reactors. Once nandiyan ang ransomware, nandiyan na yung hacking, na-breach na yung data. That's why eGov, we have a team. We also have cybersecurity team to make sure that as we develop things, we solidify the platform also and protect at the same time. That's why we're moving into encryption level, double security layers, blockchain technology. So those are the things that we're doing now. We have analytics also. So nowadays, there's a lot of algorithm that you can embed in the system. Okay, so example, if they use the SSO, we have SSO now called single sign-on. So if you go to PhilHealth or GSIS or any other, the multiple accesses, the system listens if these are not normal activity. So immediately, you can see that someone is really trying to conduct hacking. And immediately, our system will react. And we have an analytics immediately that our cybersecurity bureau also can now go and take a look at it. So meaning, we're not waiting us to be hacked. Okay? It will be more proactive in a way. Another effort of the ICT is called the proactive hacking. So we are the one hacking. So we're assembling a team now, although it's not under me, under Yusek Jeff, under Yusef Jeff D. But together with eGov, we have a so-called Hack for Gov. But the Hack for Gov, meaning secretly, or it's not secret anymore. We're the one hacking. The problem is we have a lot of legacy systems in the government. You name it. Ang dami. Imagine that. And the problem is we don't have budget. If you take a look at the budget in terms of cybersecurity, wala kami. Sariling sikap. Yun ang problema eh. But whatever we have right now, we maximize it. And in fact, we're able to notify a lot of government agency on their vulnerabilities ahead of time. Di ba, nauuna tayo. Those are the activities. And those analytics also, hindi pa siya perfecto, it's not perfect yet.
But you're going that direction.
That we're going that direction.
Yeah.
And we're looking for partners, more partners, so that we're able to amplify our capabilities in terms of cyber attacks.
Thank you, Yusek David. I really appreciate the foundational approach. I mean, and the analogy, the spaghetti wires and the underground cabling system. Thank you. So let's go to Carl. Carl, right? Carl, BSP. During the pandemic, it may not be you may not be aware. The BSP is in the forefront of implementing the National Strategy for Financial Inclusion. And during the pandemic, I don't know if it's timing or intentional, the pillars were revised and revisited. Maybe you can elaborate on that. I mean, because beyond just tech, information and financial inclusion should be in the forefront of combating cybercrime. Maybe you can elaborate on how the national strategy has evolved in terms of the pillars and measures, and what's being done in terms of what's your part in combating cybercrime.
So first of all, good morning to everyone. As mentioned, the National Strategy for Financial Inclusion was refreshed in 2022, and it was intentional. The pandemic was one of the reasons why the National Strategy was refreshed. So the initial strategy, or the first strategy, was launched in 2015, and so the initial vision, objectives, and guiding principles for advancing financial inclusion in the country was outlined in that initial strategy. But in 2021, the Financial Inclusion Steering Committee, it's an interagency committee, recognized that the consumer preferences and needs and the financial services landscape was changing because of advancements in digital technologies and because of the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. So the national strategy was relaunched in January 2022. It's the National Strategy for Financial Inclusion 2022 to 2028, or NSFI 2022 to 2028, to resharpen the strategic objectives and the vision of the strategy so that it remains relevant to the country. In terms of the pillars, so now the strategy has four desired outcomes and 4 strategic objectives to achieve the ultimate vision of driving financial inclusion towards financial resilience and inclusive growth. So among the strategic objectives is actually the promotion of inclusive digital finance, because we recognize that digital technologies play a vital role in making servicing the currently unserved and underserved, making these digital financial services viable for the unserved and underserved. In terms of combating the risks that are involved, so again, we recognize that for consumers to actually adopt digital finance, there needs to be trust and confidence in the digital ecosystem. And to build that trust and confidence, we recognize that consumer protection mechanisms must be in place, and that the consumers need to have the right knowledge and skills, or digital literacy, to actually use these digital tools. So in the BSP, pursuant to the Financial Products and Services Consumer Protection Act that was signed into law last year, 2022, we have expanded our consumer protection standards that we expect from the BSP supervised financial institutions. Again, in these expanded consumer protection standards, we expect that the financial institutions have control over the features of their digital innovation, so that it doesn't take advantage of the lack of knowledge of the consumers, and that the necessary consumer redress mechanisms or consumer complaints mechanisms are in place. So, and then in terms of digital financial literacy, we have our digital literacy program, where we first promote the adoption of digital payments, and where we also ensure that consumers are aware of good cyber hygiene practices, so that they can protect themselves from digital fraud and scams. And in our financial literacy programs, we partner with other government agencies and the private sector so that we can expand the reach of our literacy programs.
Yes, thank you very much, Carl. So we have the public sector speaking. Now let's shift to the private sector. Tech provider, Feedzai. How has the landscape changed in terms of AI tech solutions pre-pandemic and endemic? And what's the unique value proposition of Feedzai in all this?
Hey everybody, it's really great to be back in Manila. Look, I'm not here to give a sales pitch and talk about the unique value proposition of what Feedzai does. If anybody wants to have a chat to me about that, I'm happy to. But look, I want to bring it back and get real here. Financial inclusion is something that's very dear to my heart, and I've been involved in it quite a lot. The digital age is coming in. COVID has accelerated the pace of change. But with that, it's also given organised crime an incredible opportunity to absolutely take full advantage of people coming onto the financial ladder with new digital apps, real-time payments, and scams are going off the charts. It's not just an issue in the Philippines, but it's a global issue. It's a global pandemic, right? So COVID has accelerated through digital transformation, but everywhere in the world we've got an issue with scams. And unfortunately, the Philippines is not isolated from this. If I look at where I actually currently go back to wash my clothes in Sydney when I'm not traveling, last year $3.1 billion was lost in reported scams in Australia. So just take a moment there. $3.1 billion of public money, of consumers, of people who are banking, lost money. That's what was reported. At least 60% of people don't report their scams. Now, I got this morning. It's a very real text. I don't normally have my phone up here. But it says here, now there's one slight flaw on this scam. It says mum. Right, so I think they had a 50-50 bet here. If they bet dad, it would have a bit of accuracy. But it says, mum, I've dropped my phone down the toilet and the SIM isn't working. Can you message on my new number on WhatsApp? It's urgent. Gives me a mobile phone number, and they even went as far to give me kisses. But this is what's going on. So previously what was happening in the sector, pre-COVID, you had unauthorized scams. You had cyber attacks, you had identity takeover, had people who had man-in-the-middle browser attacks and the likes. But it's actually got far more complicated now and far more complex because most of the scams that are happening are actually authorized. It's where myself as a consumer is actually going to my bank and saying, I'm authorizing to transfer money from my account to my daughter or my son who's dropped their phone down the toilet, or a romance scam, or a crypto get-rich-quick scam. And this is where the real issue is, because how can you actually turn around and identify whether or not this person is legitimately sending money to somebody for legitimate purposes or not? That's where the real challenge is, and we'll touch on it at the back. But there's two key words that David mentioned, you mentioned earlier as well. It's partnership. We need to do more in collaboration in this space. The public sector and the private sector need to come in together and collaborate a lot more. This is key. This is absolutely critical. And the other key piece, there's one key word, it's called trust. Right? Who do you trust? Look, I've spent most of my career working within the banking sector. I've spent time advising and consulting, but I'm working within Feedzai at the moment, who is a technology company with all the fashionable words like AI, machine learning, data science, whatever. But what do? We're not a vendor, we're a partner. And we're a partner here to work with anybody who will allow us to come in and help you because you can trust us. And that's what it's about.
Yes. So, Carlos, you are in the business of trust.
Okay.
So, it used to be there's so much focus on financial risks.
Yeah.
Now you have operational risks, which is becoming real. Operational risk defined by Basel is any risk associated with people, systems, process.
Yep.
How do you strategize? How have you strategized differently in terms of embedding that mindset within RCBC to be really on their toes when it comes to operational risk, when it comes to technology use?
Okay. For that, actually, what we have to have, everybody has to have the same mindset. The true mindset of the banks today is they have recognition. It's called, when you go to digital, it's a great equalizer. The problem is you have your big data, the fraudsters have their own big data. You have your AI, they have their own AI. So it's a very important fact to recognize. They're much more organized. When you talk about organized crime before, the first thing that comes into mind is the TV show called Sopranos. But now, organized crime is much more wider. It's more transnational. You can have different groups from different sets, and they give consultancy and they commoditize the expertise to actually defraud a person. So the thing is, we have to put in controls, not just for ourselves, but also for our consumers. And that controls, that set of controls should be, how would you call it, tempered. You don't want to destroy the experience of them using your services. Because if you made too much friction, what will happen? They'll just move out. Yeah. And of course, industry-wise, we're starting to see collaborations among private and in public sector. So it's very important that we've come to this point where we've realized it is a collaboration also on our side, not just on their, well, the criminals are collaborating. So if you don't, then you'll be the one that's going to face the wrath of that collaboration.
Thank you, Carlos. So, Sean, have anything else?
Yeah,
to add?
I just want to jump in, but we need to collaborate better. Okay, we need to be in a situation where the regulator is comfortable to actually sit down with private industry, and it be truly unconditional. That it's not about endorsing a particular vendor. It's not about saying, hey, look, I'm Feedzai, we're a global company, and I was chatting to MAS today, or I was hatching to HMAS, I was hatching with, here in the Philippines. It's not about that, because technology is moving at such a pace. And what we're seeing happening globally is basically it's that organized crime are going around and they've got a business case and they're saying, look, I'm looking at the Philippines right now. The pace of change is absolutely colossal. It's fantastic. There's an amount of people that are coming onto the financial ladder, which is absolutely brilliant as well. But actually, you know what? There's a great opportunity here. We can target 2 or 3 segments and we can make billions. That's what's happening. We're seeing it, and I'm sure your intelligence agency and the intelligence briefings are seeing it as well. But we need to get into a room and talk about the real opportunity to protect your citizens, to get people in a place of real security, and do it in a way that's meaningful and not just like sort of the buzzwords and chanting about it. There needs to be much greater collaboration. Because I've done 15, 20 years of this, and it gets frustrating. Traveling around the world, meeting people, I'm hearing the same things at conferences, and I'm going, no, come on, let's get in a room and talk. Let's do more of it.
Yeah. Sean, thank you for that. And indeed, collaboration is key. It's a huge market. Everybody can play a role. So speaking of collaboration, Yusek David, maybe you can elaborate on the kind of collaboration you have across agencies, because a number of agencies have a touch point in cybercrime. Like for instance, SEC, of course BSP, and a follow-up question would be, what kind of collaboration are you looking in terms of collaborating with the private sector?
Very, if I may say, interesting question. But the ICT can do a lot of things if you can use the ICT as your pilot. We are tasked by the government not to protect ourselves in the ICT, but to protect multiple government agencies. So example, this is relevant also to the national ID example. The reason why we have the national ID is to make sure that we have a strong eKYC of this country. Yeah? National ID was around 6 years ago or 5 years ago. But until now, we don't have use cases of the national ID. And good news, now we have it now. My suggestion is visit e.gov.ph. I wish we have, I don't know if we have GovTech later on, and I'm going to show you how it works live. And then you can amplify that through collaborations because we have a lot of missing pieces. Yeah. We have the data. We have around 85 million encrypted data from the national ID. That's around 90% of the paying public already. So meaning we can protect 90% of the paying public through the national ID. Okay, so since we have already the eGov platform with eGov APIs that you can amplify through collaboration, okay, now we can protect the citizen. Good example, know your payer approach. We are now implementing a so-called know your payer approach. Right now you have the know your customer. If, example, a while ago someone is trying to it's not even hacking, it's reverse engineering, it's social engineering already. The phishing, the vishing, and it's a psychological war already. Yeah? So if you don't understand those kind of psychological war, you will lose the game. And it's not just the government responsibility, it's individual responsibility. We need to educate them, right? But we need to give them tools. And how are we going to do that? That's why government as a service is very important. Example, the digital national ID that we have right now, we have an API, by the way. We have an API, ready API. That's why I'm encouraging you to visit e.gov.ph. You will find two kinds of API there. First API is for you to integrate to the eGov platform, number one, if you want your services to be part of it. Number two is called the Partners API. If you have the eGov system, if you have the eGov app, you have a QR code, right? You have a national ID there. It's called the Data Sovereignty System. Once you show your QR code to the banks, or you want to open a bank account, or you want to pay something, or someone is asking you to pay, or someone stole your online banking account, or e-wallet account, or stole your access account. Once this is linked to the Partners API, you can now activate your three-factor authentication. So meaning, once, example, Gay, I was able to call Gay, let's say I'm the scammer, and then I was able to call Gay. I was able to get even the OTP, okay, to access her account. But the moment someone accesses the OTP, you can still use your national ID to verify that you are the one paying. So meaning, if you are the one paying, you protect yourself. But if someone is paying in your behalf, that is already dangerous, right? That's why we have a lot of use cases, okay, in the national ID system. And we're willing to share that with you. And that can be amplified through partnership because we have a lot of issues also that we need to resolve. We need partners who has the capability to detect threats immediately. We need partners that could throw us analytics, maybe some AI capabilities that it could warn people immediately. Yeah? So imagine if we're able to detect that someone is trying to scam you, Gay, maybe a system could notify you immediately that someone is really trying to scam you. Okay? So notification is very important. In fact, the ICT, we are launching a so-called e-notification system next year. So, but we need more resources, we need more partners to amplify this capability. I think we have something here that it could amplify you, but you have something here in the private that could amplify us. At the end of the day, the government need the private. Private need the government. So we are not two different entities, we are one. If we fail, you fail. Yeah, in the private. If you guys fail, we fail. So this is, I believe on that declaration of collaboration is actually the key. But sometimes collaboration is also an understated statement where we need to make sure to implement the most doable things first. Because a lot of meetings sometimes, even in the government, I'm tired sometimes doing a lot of seminars, meetings, picture taking, and so on and so forth, but no one is really working. Yeah? So it's really good that maybe from the private side, I assembled a team. They are busy every day. You can come to us, show what you guys have, and then we start doing things immediately.
Yeah, very grateful, Yusek David. An open invitation to all to partner and collaborate with DICT. Carlos, if you're going to give an advice to the CEOs or CISO, similar position where you are, what would be what would be the criteria of a partner of choice when it comes to tech providers?
Oh, for partners of choice, that's one. Well, to be honest, partner of choice is you have to look at the platform. Technology is going to be, it's going to be part of your entire DNA of your organization. So your security architecture will actually dictate how well your platforms work together. So most platforms, the best ones are usually open, very easy to integrate, and they actually work well. I know, like for example, you have to revisit also your requirements. Before I was talking to one of our tech guys and they were saying, backup, what is the backup? Everybody wants to say, oh, RPO and RTO. So they tell me time to recover would be 4 hours. As in, they can get up the systems. And I said, okay, then well, how about the data? At most, we'll lose 1 day of data. And then I said, we have to revisit that. Why? You forgot. Today, we're all APIs, and there are millions of API calls. Do you want to reconcile that manually? So they were like, oh, yes, we have to redo. So the backup, our RPO, has actually, recovery point objective, has shifted with the technology. Same also for solutions. You have to look at solutions that also evolve with you, work with you, and of course, collaborative partners that actually support. A lot of, as you can see, technology has changed a lot. Even before we look at antivirus, even just at antivirus, it has changed far from what it's like before. It's now endpoint detection and response because everybody realized we can never put in all the signatures of the viruses in. We have to look at behavior. So as you can see, technologies change, but you should also shift your strategy with technology. That's why you have to be very open also at looking at how it works with your solution and take into account that you also work with legacy platforms. Yes. So that's the usual thing we have to do. And of course, balance it with business. It's always, you have to work with your own business partners.
Very, very great insights. I'm going to go back to BSP. So financial inclusion has been proven a tool for poverty alleviation, one of the tools. But then the last social weather survey, I think second quarter, shows that majority of Filipino families feel that they are poor. They regard themselves as poor. Are we looking at the right indicators? I mean, what are the indicators you're looking at in terms of digitalization? I mean, not necessarily, I think it was raised earlier, not necessarily that you have a bank account, it means you have a sustainable livelihood, right? So what are we looking at in terms of metrics? Have we also revisited those metrics alongside with the National Strategy for Financial Inclusion?
So we actually view account ownership. While account ownership is a basic indicator of financial inclusion, we don't see it as the end goal. So financial inclusion doesn't end with you owning a bank account or an e-money account. We want these accounts to pave the way for you to use other financial tools such as credit, insurance, investment. And through these tools, an individual or a business can pursue his or her life goals such as owning a home, having a comfortable retirement, or for businesses, increasing their productivity. So going back to the National Strategy for Financial Inclusion, that's why our vision is to drive financial inclusion towards financial resilience and inclusive growth. So in terms of monitoring and evaluation, aside from monitoring account ownership, we're actually also monitoring or measuring indicators in terms of access to formal credit, access to insurance and investments. As mentioned a while ago, it's still low currently, but we have strategic initiatives in the NSFI to address the many barriers towards owning an insurance, investments, and other financial tools.
Thank you very much. So speaking of financial inclusion, of course, I hope it's a myth, but that's mindset that AI can eventually replace people. And that can drive us further to financial exclusion. I mean, I want to get your take on this, Sean. I mean, how do you balance that?
At the center of everything, we need humans. Okay, we're all here, humans having a human experience, and this AI, it's very fashionable at the moment. It's definitely here to stay. But what are we actually talking about? We're talking about taking information, and we're talking about putting in routines to make very, very complex decisions based on the information that's there. But at the core of any ethical company, you have a human. Right, so anybody who's making strategic decisions around AI, there needs to be two words at the core of it: it's human-centric. Right, so everything we're doing in our organization, we're making human-centric decisions where we're leveraging the power of data and the latest in technology around AI. So when I go back and you're talking, Carlos, about what sort of vendor would you go out and you talk to, and I'd say, focus less on the technology, because most of the technology out there today is good, right? There's some who are very good, and there's some that are average and so on, but the tech's there. But it's all about, again, who can you trust, and who has done this before, and who's doing it from the right ethos, with the right ethical, the right values. Anybody who talks about AI that does not talk about human-centric, walk away. Walk away, whether it's to do with banking, whether it's to do with telcos, whether it's to do with social media, walk away. There's a really, really strong ethical value. We've got a really large R&D center, and one of the core founders of Feedzai runs the R&D center, and he's released in the open source community ethical fair banding. Because look, I'm living in Sydney right now, very fortunate. It's very, very lucrative city. And I've noticed from my previous roles working within the banking industry, where if you had a certain postcode, you were excluded from credit. This was in Sydney. We can't go on like this, right? So at the core of AI, find somebody who's got the right values and make sure human-centric's involved.
Yes, thank you very much, Sean. I feel that I got a lot from this session, and I'm grateful for all the insights of our panelists here. It's a very volatile, risky environment. I know, the first point of defense is yourself as consumers, but it's hopeful to see that we have public sector, private sector as another line of defense against cyber crimes, cyber attacks. So with that, I end this session. Thank you very much, Sean, Carlos, Carl, and Yusek David. Really an honor to moderate this session. Thank you, Asia CEO.